welcome to the daily newscast within the United Countries special by the First Ukraine. You can find us at the frequencies available at our website, firstua.com. Victoria Zabiyan is working for you in the studio. Thank you for joining us. Cyber rotation in Donetsk airport continues with maximum security for them. It was reported in General Headquarters of Ukrainian Armed Forces. Press service commented the statement of Donetsk terrorist leader Zakharchenko that Ukrainian soldiers will not be changed at the airport anymore. Let me recall that for the last time, rotation is conducted through the checkpoints of terrorists, and the process is controlled by OSCE representatives.
The previous scheme, when military personnel who is involved in interventions to provide protection and defense of the Donetsk airport with fights broke through on the runway of the airport. The regime, but nevertheless, the negotiation process, including the involvement of representatives of the monitoring mission OSCE, continues. Therefore, first of all, we address all efforts to ensure the rotation of personnel in order to minimize losses.
Ukrainian Parliament has appealed to European leaders and Council of Europe Assembly. Here upon liberation of Ukrainian pilot and members of Parliament Nadia Savchenko, she was captured by terrorists half a year ago and passed to Russian Federation. Since that time, woman at the pretrial detention facility.
Above the Presidium is a poster in support of Ukrainian pilot and a member of parliament. Chairman of Verkhovna Rada starts session with elocution. The 32nd day, our colleague is starving for the love of justice, for the love of Ukraine, and our position, our duty, to do everything in order to our colleague was released. In support of Nadia, members of parliament wore T-shirts with the lettering "Liberty to Savchenko." These T-shirts were not only fellow party members, but also the representatives of another parliamentary parties. In the order of the day, an appeal of the parliament to the Council of Europe to release Savchenko from Russian captivity. Firstly, to Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe, they have an impact on Red Cross and also on all international authorities. Let them associate. The government of Parliamentary Assembly has personal connections with Putin and can speak with him. The same thing concerns the leaders of the states who now is negotiating for peace in Ukraine. The appeal to the world leaders of the Council of Europe supported more than 30 members of parliament. Vera Savchenko, a sister of a pilot, also applauds to the decision. She was presented in the hall. After the vote, the speaker addressed to a woman prisoner. He asked Nadia Savchenko on behalf of the Ukrainian parliament to stop the hunger strike, which lasted for a month. Victoria Plastun, Olena Samsonova, First Ukraine.
Deputy Head of Ministry for Housing and Public Utilities, A.Lysenko, has been forced to refuse from the state of ATO participant just during this session. Several members of parliament had written about this on their Facebook and had uploaded photos. They had a conversation with member of government. After their discussion, he had written an application about refusal from ATO participant status.
A deputy minister found out that in order to avoid the illustration, he quickly acquired a protection from illustration, the status of the participant of the hostilities. At the same time, when the people who really sacrificed their lives, sacrificed their hearts, their hands, legs, lives on the front lines, they cannot get this status, but a deputy minister got it quite easily. After a talk with the member of the parliament, he acknowledged that especially never thought, and he has not a big desire to be a member of ATO, and so easily abandoned. Here is an official statement. We said to him that it is not decently, and when he will be cancelled a member of military operations, he automatically fall under illustration and will be fired.
For today, near 3,000 people had got the ATO participant status in Ukraine. It was said by the head of illustration department of the Ministry for Justice, Tatiana Kazachenko. 200 of them had not been in the area of military actions. A meeting in Norman format in Astana had been postponed for several weeks. Head of Foreign Affairs Committee of European Parliament Elmar Brok reported about this. Meeting on Ukrainian, Russian, French and German leaders had to happen in Kazakhstan on 15th of January. On the eve, Norman Force had assembled in Berlin. On the level of foreign ministers, discussion continued more than 3.5 hours. Its participants agreed to meet again in several days in the same membership.
Situation in Ukraine is very stressful. There is no ceasefire. People die on the east of Ukraine. Humanitarian situation is still very disturbing. And we still had no found ways of overcoming this crisis. We have to try to do this again, to find a political solution. This political process could be successful when there is a direct dialogue. In this case, between representatives of Donetsk and Luhansk People Republics and representatives of Ukrainian government. All of them should feel themselves completely involved in this political process as equal partners.
At the same time, leaders of illegal self-proclaimed republics in Donbass repeat statements of Mr. Lavrov. They said that Kyiv should recognize Donetsk and Luhansk as separate subjects and also to begin negotiations with separatists. According to one of representatives of terroristic organization, without this, militants will not discuss any issues with Ukrainian authority. Ukrainian parliament has deprived oligarchs the opportunity to control state enterprises. In this way, member of parliament Serhiy Kaplin commented the law about incorporated enterprises. 230 MPs had voted for the resolution. New law foresees that for shareholder meeting, since now it is enough 50 and 1 share. Earlier, this limit was 60%. Document comes into effect for state enterprises since today, and for private ones in 1 year.
It foresees that any oligarch will not be able to control the enterprise, which belongs you as citizen of the state, because it could not be the quorum of 60% as it was earlier. You remember the story with Vkontakte and Mr. Kolomoisky, story with Mr. Akhmetov and so on. In this way, they laid hands on state property.
Prohibition to check business owners was prolonged on half a year. Prime Minister of Ukraine Arseniy Yatsenyuk said about this during the meeting with heads of regional state administrations. In particular, he talked about budget decentralization, since now money from 2 taxes on real estate and excise goods sale stay in local budgets.
I'd ask you to use the opportunity that we were waiting for 20 years. We give you fishing tackle, and your assignment to take fish by this fishing tackle in form of new budget code and new tax code, and to make your region better, stronger, to get more money. You should rely on your own authorities, your forces.
In Kaliningrad, old Berlin Bridge had fallen in. 4 people died, more 2 injured. Investigative committee of Russia guesses that there are people under the ruins. The passage across the river was not operated, and it was decided to pull it down. Pillars were dismantling by workers, and in the moment, concrete structure had covered people. Berlin or Palmberg Bridge is a part of Ring Road. It was built in 1938. The bridge was damaged during the Second World War, and still it had not been repaired. The Ukrainian flag that was waving over the Crimea in New Year's Eve will be sold in auction. On these shots, you can see how Russian Alexander Poltavsky sitting on Roman Kosh mountain. This is the highest point of the peninsula. In the darkness, a few minutes before in the New Year, the man is holding the Ukrainian flag. Alexander addresses Ukrainians congratulating them and wants to expel all terrorists from this territory.
I was born and raised in Russia, so I have Russian mindset, but yellow-blue colors trigger only positive emotions for me for the last time, and red-blue-white colors only negative emotions. Crimea should be common. We, Belarusians, Russians and Ukrainians, should be united, and those who disconnect us, they are enemies of our people.
It was the United Country newscast by the First Ukraine. You can find more details at our website, firstua.com. Victoria Zabiyan was working for you in the studio. Wish you only good news. Take care and goodbye.